Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome the conservatives who gathered here from different corners of the world, from Washington to Georgia, from Estonia to Chile. And I would especially like to extend my heartfelt welcome to Mechthlep, our good old friend, without whom we could not be here today. Thank you very much. Heartfelt welcome to all here in Budapest. I'm really delighted to have the opportunity of meeting you, greeting you personally, although it's well known that you cannot break the world record in swimming in the morning. Hungary is well known in international politics today. This is really unusual because this is a country of 10 million with a modest armed force, with a mid-range GDP, not significant and not really interesting. If you view this from Washington, from Brussels, from Berlin, from Moscow or Beijing. However, humbleness, real friends, really has a place here. Still, there is something attractive, something exotic in all this. Probably the language, which no one understands. And no one understands that a Homo sapiens, how on earth would they be able to speak such an extraterrestrial language? Dear guests, don't give it a try. Because obviously, if you make it in vain, attempt it in vain, that's going to cause depression. Probably what whips up excitement is that for 1100 years, there's a people living here in the framework of its own state, and they are not giving up of their independence an inch. However, probably what is really exciting is that while the entirety of Europe has been flooded with a progressive liberal ocean, here, as a miracle, you can find a conservative island, an island of difference, which is really defying the high tide of Brussels, the storm of Brussels and Washington, and the hurricane from Washington. Not only defying, but it is surviving, it is successful, it is victorious, and it is victorious again and again. Heartfelt welcome to the island of difference, the homeland of Island of Difference. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a conservative conference in Europe which people don't want to ban. This is a conservative conference, the organizers of which are not threatened and blackmailed. They don't want to hurt their families. They are not going to tow away their cars. This is a conservative conference which is not kicked away from one place to another. This is a conservative conference to which police is not alerted to come upon. Because last week, all these things happened to us in Brussels. My friend Yoram Hazumi, they were organizing the NatCom, the National Conservative Conference. It was not easy, but they were successful, so congratulations to the organizers. Here, things are a bit different. Against all odds and against all other news, there's a rule of law here. Anyone can organize a conference what they want. They can rent a place according to their will, and they can say whatever they want. And as opposed to my colleague, to my counterpart in Belgium, the Prime Minister of Belgium, even if I wanted, I could not send a message to the Hungarian court what is the right thing to do, what is the right decision. Even if I did so, they would defy that message, because this is how it goes in Hungary. Hungarians do not like others to intervene in their affairs. As our American friends would say, don't tread on me. In Brussels, the European liberals, in the paradise of European liberals, we already have European progressive life. It is the old joke that comes to mind from the era of dictatorship. Please tell me, is this already communism or it's getting worse? But dear friends, let's not be sorry because of the time in Brussels and because of our hardships, but let's just be very glad to be here. Heartfelt welcome to His Excellency Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister of Australia. When the migration tide started in 2015, he was the Western Prime Minister who we cast our eye upon from Budapest, from here. He is our hero. He's been our hero because he said that migration had to be stopped, and he was the one who actually did stop it. He was the one who sent us the message. If you come illegally on our borders, you may not enter. You must not enter, and he showed and he showcased that this could be done. Now, being a former role model, he became a friend, and now it's very good to have you here, Mr. Prime Minister, with us. I'd also like to welcome Mr. Janez Janša, the eternal Prime Minister of Slovenia. It is his big parade that no matter whether he is on government, whether he is ruling or he is in opposition, if you talk to him, you always feel you're talking to the Prime Minister. He is a great and successful fighter, despite the fact that the left has done everything they could. They cited him to court, convicted him, also was incarcerated, and Brussels kept silent all the time. But he always stood up, he always became stronger and stronger after these battles, and he always became a prime minister. And hopefully, dear Jens, you're going to tell us the know-how one day. And may I also welcome Mr. Irakli Kovakidze, the Prime Minister of Georgia. He is the Prime Minister who, back home, is considered to be a real chess player, a political chess player, and no wonder that is so, because in the millennial history of Georgia, that's in itself is a major geopolitical chess game. How on earth it is possible, despite all odds and despite superpowers around you, how you can retain your national identity and culture? This chess game has been played by the people of Georgia for several hundred years. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much for being here with us, and wish you success, all the best. And here, if it's not here, he's going to come here, my friend Mateusz Morawiecki, the former Prime Minister of Poland. We've been old friends in fight. We've been fighting for sovereignty for the families of our nation and for the protection of our children. We've been fighting together, Poles and Hungarians, for whatever we consider to be important to us and what the progressive left wanted to abolish or wanted to force upon us. It's good that we will have our friend Mateusz here with us. We're expecting him back to Brussels, heading and leading the Polish armies. And there are many from the United States, from Israel, from Spain, from Brazil, from Chile, from the Netherlands, Belgium and France. And I would also like to welcome the representatives of Hungarians living abroad. Thank you very much for being here. This is a marvelous opportunity to meet up again. Dear friends, 2 years ago, when we had the first CPAC in Budapest, and we have to be very humble, I was talking about the Hungarian recipe of success. A year ago, I was talking about the fact that Hungary is a lab, is an experimenting lab against the progressive virus with international patents, and these are important theoretical questions. But today, now in 2024, this year is not about the theory, this is about practice. We are going to have elections around the world, and these elections will have to be won. These elections do fall in line with major trend changes in the geopolitics and in the world. The world is changing, and among these changes we need to be successful, we need to forward our cause. Progressive liberals do feel the danger. Replacing the era also means replacing them. The replacement and the end of the progressive world spirit. Therefore, don't forget that they are not going to back off. They are ready to do whatever they want to do, and they are still in power now. They are a dangerous foe, dangerous opponent. They have no moral limitations. They are in power, and they will not be afraid to use their power and their tools. If necessary, they will use state authorities against us. Our American friends do say that they are weaponizing state institutions, and all this before our very eyes. Before our very eyes, and this is happening to us Hungarians in Brussels. This is what's happening to President Trump in the United States. We are cheering for him, so that it's not only at the elections, but also before the court, he would be victorious concerning his right. Our opponents are there, sitting in the chairs of power, heading institutions, and what they are wanting to do is, instead of serving public good, they would just like to take you down. This is the situation where we have to win. Well, this might be a new thing for our friends from Western countries, but for us, Central Europeans, this is no news. We know this situation very well. We've seen how political oppression was created by the communists, but I think not everyone knows this in Western countries, and this is why we should devote a couple of minutes to that. Dear friends, in the old days it was the communists, now it's the progressives. In 5 steps, they are trying to steal the cheese out from our mouth, and in 5 steps, they get to the point where they can use state authorities, weaponize state authorities to make them weapons of oppression. First, they just rephrase normality. George Orwell had seen this before. He said, war is peace, freedom is a serving end, the lack of knowledge is power. The progressive liberals and the communists, in the first step of oppression, they say that normal, it would just mean the opposite, what it originally means. War is peace. This is what progressives say today as well.
Peace facility. That's how they have christened the Brussels Financial Fund, used to send the most destructive arms to the front. Migration is a resource, they argue, while we are seeing an increase in crime, in the threat of terrorism, and while trust and confidence is slowly but surely disappearing from our societies. The second step is that this distorted normality is being spread through the means of state authorities. Whoever thinks differently is an issue. There is something wrong with you. If you hold opinions to the contrary, you must be either ignorant or mad. They intend to create the notion that if people were to listen to these people, that would lead to some kind of a fatal disaster. And the third step is that they start spreading the idea about you that given the fact that you have embraced the dangerous notions, you are a security risk. So they will send some kind of a fact checker or a democracy watchdog over you, and these institutions or people will conclude about you that you are not sharing the mainstream notions of normalcy. That means you are a radical. So your liberties should be boldly restricted. In the fourth step, they are stirring up the liberal media against you. They are putting activists in line, and they will use legal means to silence you. There, you will be faced with the world of fake profiles reporting you on the internet and on community media sites, and applications will be filed against you with the courts and state authorities. And if you are still on your feet, if you have still prevailed to this point, in the fifth point, government authorities will take action. So many requests and applications arrive against you that unfortunately it is their duty to start an investigation against you. This is how they are turning government institutions into progressive private institutions. They conclude that the accusations of the press, the concerns of the watchdogs have been well-founded, and proceedings will start against you. That is what has been going on against Hungary in Brussels. And the same is happening to the conservatives in progressive liberal European capitals. This is what has been suffered by Donald Trump when he was attempted to be removed from the ballots. And through administrative means, they wanted to ban Tucker Carlson in the European Union. The same is happening in Germany. Secret service means are used to watch the political parties. And the same thing happened when there was an attempt made in Finland to condemn the politician and the bishop because they quoted from the Holy Script. Ladies and gentlemen, this has come this far. The good news, however, is that the time has come for us to put an end to all of this. This year, if the Lord is with us, we will be able to put an end to an inglorious age of Western civilization. We can put an end to a world order predicated on progressive liberal hegemony. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, the progressive world spirit has failed. It has brought on us wars, chaos, and unrest and peacelessness, collapsing economies, disorder in international politics, poverty for families, deteriorating public security in our streets and squares. This was a strange, a weird age, and a very unusual spirit. Its faithful announced that their task is not to represent the interests of the people, but to realize their own notions. And if the facts do not substantiate their notions, then discard the facts. They divided the world into democracies and autocracies, and they said that their mission is to launch a crusade against autocracies. They did go, they engaged in war, and eventually people got fed up with them wherever they turned up. Let's use straightforward language here. This world order produced leaders who are not fit to be leaders, who are inept for the task, who keep making mistakes, and ultimately they cause their own destruction. They argue that what we need is a hegemon, some kind of an ideological control, beneath which everybody will have to be subjugated. And if that finally happens, they argue, peace will eventually reign at home and all over the world as well. Dear friends, when I'm listening to these arguments, what I think of is as follows. Well, we have these awesome leaders, truly clumsy. Even people or the contestants of a beauty contest know more about world peace than they do. My message, dear friends, is that here is the unique, perhaps never to return occasion to replace this declining progressive liberal world spirit with a different world spirit, the spirit and the notion of sovereignty. But what would that be like? How can we imagine that? Perhaps first and foremost, I would like to stress that in a sovereignist world order there is no such thing as a global ideology that everyone has to adhere to. In such a world, national interests will determine the trajectory of states, and every nation will act in line with their own national interests. I also believe that in a sovereigntist world order, the real sovereign is the people. As our guests would probably say, popular sovereignty. I am very hopeful that in the future, instead of all sorts of NGOs and large corporations and media centers and suspicious experts and suspicious academicians, it will be popularly elected representatives and politicians who will chart the course to walk on. I hope that in the sovereigntist world spirit, instead of Soros's open society model, we will have a protected society where the state will be protecting its citizens, where migration is not organized. Instead, the borders are protected, and where family formation is a value and families are protected as an important institution of the nation. And I also believe that in such a world order, there will be no ideology in world trade. Everybody can trade with each other, and the task of the various states will be to build networks of contacts, protecting the nations from unilateral dependencies. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we are ahead of elections. Let's be brave and say that the liberal hegemony made the world a worse place. It instigated war where there could have been peace. It brought chaos to where there was order before. It intended to eradicate our countries and families, and it wanted to wipe our nations away from the face of the earth. And the adherents of this old world order are still sitting there in Brussels, and it's not my duty to meddle in the internal affairs of the United States, but I am afraid they are sitting there in Washington as well. This year, we wish to drive them away from there. Let the age of sovereignty return once again. Let us return to the peaceful and safe past that made the West great. Make America great again. Make Europe great again. Go for it, Donald Trump. Go for it, European sovereigntists. Let's saddle our horses. Put on our armors. Head to the battlefield. Dear friends, memorable weeks are awaiting us. Go for victory.